watch it on television and support them and think it's the greatest thing ever for all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with the rest? I know you're good friends with Paige and Kimberly. Do you keep in touch with any of the other girls?
All the girls, we're really close. We usually go out, we have dinner, we do things like that at least several times a year. And now, for a while we all still lived in Atlanta. But as of a couple years ago, everybody's work and lives and careers took them, some of us out of state. And so, but we still do a really good job of, getting our girl time in, and that was what was probably the greatest gift of CW, is it really, the connection that we all had, and I'm not trying to be mushy, but it's so genuine. I mean, it was a phenomenal group of females, and we really genuinely love each other. I mean, and obviously, like, I said, 10 years later, to still want to get together and to be together and be a part of each other's lives, and so we do it. We do it quite frequently, and we get to see Chiquita up in New York, and some of the later girls that came on, like Jen Starr. She was the tall one. Later, she's out in California now, and she was in Seattle for a while, and we got to spend some time with her, and so it's all been good. And kind of in the interlude is what's really interesting. This is a little side story. After wrestling, because of course I've danced my whole life, I went to work for Coyote Ugly, the bars, for a while, and I was one of their choreographers. And so I traveled the country, and I opened their bars, and I trained their bartenders. And so I was out opening a bar, actually out in Seattle, and in comes Star for the audition. And I'm like, Jen? I was like, Star? 6'5"? I'm like, well, there you go. It's crazy small world of the community. It was wild. So she became one of my bartenders out there, and she was in physical therapy school, and so it's pretty neat. I mean, everybody's got great stories and doing great, and the girls are all just amazing.
Okay. We got a question from the chat room. They wanted to know your experience on the famous movie Ready to Rumble.
Oh, that was fun. It's so interesting. I had to head home last week because I have a little sister, and it's crazy. I've got pictures of her in the Nitro days holding up these spice signs when she was like 8, and she just graduated from high school. Crazy, but
wow.
So driving up, really crazy. And I was like, one of my favorites, my older brother, and we're driving. I'm like, one of my favorite memories was going to, we're doing the press junket, Ready to Rumble. Che and Tigress and I to Cancun with David Arquette and Scott Kahn, and we did a whole big thing for MTV. And I was like, that was just one of the best things, because that's when Pink, it was like such an interesting spring break. That was the spring break that Carson Daly and Tara Reid hooked up and then got engaged and then broke off their engagement. That's the spring when Eminem and Dr. Dre were just like the hit, and I got to go see them live, and that was awesome. And they were tooling around Cancun on their little pocket rockets. And Pink had just launched her album, so she's running around on the beach doing flips down the beach with her pink hair. And I was like, this is freaking awesome. I mean, like wrestling, especially then, when we were in that place of being the #1 show and having some of those really great opportunities, it was just fun. It was fun. And the movie itself, we were out in L.A. for 6 weeks. We had a couple of earthquakes, so that was crazy. And it's really weird. It's so funny in hindsight to look at the movie and watch it play back and go, I remember we shot that at 3 a.m., and this was going on, and that was going on. Just the little things that you remember when you watch the scenes play back. It was really like it was yesterday, and it was just an awesome experience. Everybody was incredible.
Okay, fair enough. That's cool.
Now you bring up Arquette, and many wrestling fans, especially those in the internet wrestling community, talk about that night in WCW where he won the world title.
Yeah.
How was that in the locker room after that whole thing? Were the wrestlers behind it? Were they for it and all that?
obviously I'm not in the guys' locker room. I mean, kind of outside of the locker room, the buzz is just like, yeah, you know, it was one of those things that it was media, and it was just part of the overall things that were going around to promote everything and to, you know, try to promote the brand of WCW. And so on the one hand, people understood it was business, you know. But I think for some of the guys that they're like, you know, not only this is business, he's an actor, you know, but this is my livelihood. And so some people, you know, everybody was cool about it, but you know, there was some kind of like, really, you know, really. I think one of the biggest things that blew my mind, and if I can remember which show this was, God, it was crazy. We were in Florida, was it Daytona? When, what the hell happened? It was in the main event, and Hogan and Bischoff, there was this whole upheaval that was absolutely not scripted, not planned, nothing. It was like the purest moment I've ever witnessed in wrestling, and it was crazy. It was crazy. I remember Hogan and Bischoff coming just like tearing through the back. Things are flying. People are just cursing. I mean, and it was like this huge thing. He left soon after. It was crazy. My brain is so foggy, but I just can see it. I can see Hogan and Bischoff leaving the ring, and I'm pretty sure we were in Florida, and you guys might be able to call it out what it was, but it was some big ordeal. And I think it was at a pay-per-view. Yeah, it was pay-per-view.
Probably Bash at the Beach.
Yeah, I think it was Bash at the Beach. And down to Daytona, I'm pretty sure it was, at one of the last ones, and it was wild. I was like, wow, I was just here to see that. Like, because you don't get these, it was so infrequently, because there's always stuff filming backstage. You know, everybody's always doing little outtakes, things are going on, and, you know, cameras are rolling, and so it's just kind of work. And so when you have these totally unexpected, that everybody is like, what the, you know, like those are the moments that you're just like, man, at the end it's a job, but there's still real stuff going on here, and it's not all scripted, and it's not all just pretend, and there's a lot of this is absolutely just like, you know, the real deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I heard you said earlier that the guys were like your brothers, but overall, is that how y'all were treated? I mean, you got all these ladies in with these guys who were touring all over the country. How was their treatment towards you? You know, some of the guys, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, they come off a television kind of, like our co-host here, Shane. He's called the Caribbean Playboy. You know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Nice. Yes, the truth of it is I will say that from the very beginning, because Kim was already in it, and, you know, because of Kim and Paige and Eric Bischoff, they set some pretty strict standards out of the gate. Like, when we were coming on board, for the first 6 months, like, we were herded. We were not even, honest to God, like, allowed to commingle. We weren't allowed to talk with them. It was so little. They really tried to keep us, all of us, separated, because they're like, holy crap, here come these girls that are not wrestling girls. These are like these innocent little girls coming from life that they have no clue about wrestling, and we're throwing them in with the wolves. And so they really did their best. But honest to God, every guy was fantastic. I mean, so many of them, everybody was respectful. Everybody was really sweet. Now, I don't know what they said about us when our backs weren't there. You know, maybe they're like, ooh, I'm going to hit that, going to this, going to that. I don't know. But to our faces, they really were. Most of them were really protective. I mean, as the years went on, you know, I mean, after, like, within the first year, many of us, like, we had little groups, you know, and we'd all go out in groups together and, you know, and just take care of each other and watch out for each other, and just, you know, because so many people were married or in relationships, and you just don't want any crazy stuff. It's easy, you know, there's so many fans out there. It's just like any athlete. And so a lot of us would just kind of stay together and basically be each other's wingmen and have each other's back, you know, and kind of like buffer off everybody else and just go out and have fun. And so it really was like a family, and most of them really were like our brothers. And I mean, I had great relationships with everybody, so many people. And one of the coolest things out of the gate is, as I told you all in the beginning of this interview, I graduated from chiropractic school in December of '97, and we had come out in June of '97. Well, Macho Man was probably one of the first